was already up, but it was years ago today that Kevin Cullen survived the marathon. He can still feel it. He can still hear it. He can still taste it. God knows, can he taste it?
He can smell
it.
it.
What else? One of the most amazing developments here in the 8 years later, that he still has a job. I mean, in journalism, so many people have been laid off. I know people, great newspaper people, who will never work in newspapers again because the industry's changed. On April 15th, 2013, and said he was there. Clearly, he was there when he wasn't. Pretended he was there, got caught, and then got caught.
And pretended to have like a deep, close relationship with a 10-year-old girl.
Jane Richards, one of the victims, lost a leg. Her brother lost his life. Janie, he calls her. Janie is my talisman. Now, that's is a way of saying my good luck charm. So this poor girl who survived the bombing, lost a brother, family was changed forever. She's the good luck charm for a newspaper columnist / fiction writer who made up this whole scenario where he was at the finish line after the bombing, which wasn't true, which he was caught by my former partner and sometimes friend and my old producer, Chris Curtis. They caught him, they exposed him, and the whole world could see what a fraud, what a liar, what a plagiarist. I mean, everything. He violated every rule in the book and didn't lose his job. That's your Boston Globe. That's the standard at the Boston Globe.
Not only that, Gerry, he's on a Netflix special that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, you tweeted about this, Turtleboy. I've not seen this yet, but the Netflix special on what?
I haven't seen it. It's about, I think it's called Robber. It's about like a Boston art.
This is Mike Barnacle's kids made this, and Linda Pizzuti paid for it. So
yeah, he's like the official, like, grizzled Boston voice that gives, for the out of towner, Gerry, who doesn't know the difference between 𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝘃. That's when they bring Kevin in to let him know, because there's the intricacies of how the city works,
That's my problem with the stories. Like we know guys like Kevin Cullen are going to keep their job at the Boston Globe. Like that's just we're past that point.
Well, no, Dave. Yeah. Hold on. Mike Barnacle himself lost his job, and trust me, that's a big move because Mike Barnacle has a very powerful wife and very, very powerful friends. He got caught making up a million different stories, including the one that eventually ended it for him, was making up a story about 2 kids with cancer in Maine, one black, one white, one dies, one doesn't, one lives, and it was totally fabricated. And he said, "Oh, it was just a parable." I mean, that's violating a cardinal sin. You don't ever survive that. Patricia Smith didn't survive that. Mike Barnacle didn't. They have a long history of plagiarism. Somehow this guy survives when he was caught red-handed.
And he's white.
Not just making up stories, but making up stories to steal from survivors and victims on April 15th, 2015, making it seem like he was right there with them. I mean, you don't get lower than that in journalism, and somehow he survived.
And not only that, Gerry, the Globe did a quote-unquote investigation that determined that he lied about things, and they still kept him on. They had every reason to get rid of him. They had denied, like he couldn't sue them. It's like, we did a fair investigation. We've determined that you were not truthful about a lot of things that day, and goodbye. But they didn't.
But for other people, I guess my point is, I get what you're saying. For other people to then go and use him as a expert resource, because it's not just that Netflix special, that stupid show you said that sucks on Showtime does like readings with him for live streaming, stuff like that. City on a Hill.
Like you talking City on a Hill?
Yes, like they use guys like him.
Well, hold on here, because I want to talk about City on a Hill. I had high hopes. It's a gritty Boston crime drama set in the 80s, set in Charlestown. You got old, like, 80s cars and everyone's smoking. My kind of show. Violence, murder, background. I had high hopes for City on a Hill, and I said, I'm committing to this show. I watched the first season. Second one just started. I'm sitting in the middle of the 3rd episode, and my wife got bored and walked away and said, this show stinks. I keep waiting for it to get good. I love those kind of crime dramas. I love Ray Donovan, I love, you name it, Ozark. I mean, they hook me in and I love them. And this show it's about nothing. Nothing happens. It's just, and Kevin Bacon is the most overdone character you've ever seen. I know he's a good actor. I liked him in, you name it, Diner, Footloose. I mean, the guy's in Sleepers, he's great. He's evil. In this character, he's this over-the-top Boston detective who's always got a cigarette and a drink, and he's driving, he's got a drink, a cigarette, and a line of coke on his arm, and he's just a total lunatic. But it's so overdone, you go, okay, enough. It's so poorly acted anyway. I had high hopes for City on the Hill. It's disappointing. But what does Kevin Cullen have to do with it?
No, I'm just saying, like, they go to guys like him and use him as a Boston expert and resource. He did some kind of like reading or some kind of topic on the story. So that's my only point is like the NPRs of the world. Kevin Cullen is a go-to guy still when he shouldn't even have a job. Like, it's insane to me.
They don't ever want to give the credit or the respect to the people who and the radio station that brought him down. So if he was exposed by, I don't know, the local PBS or NPR show, was exposed by I don't even know what it's called, the Jim Rowdy show on channel on public broadcasting, the National Panhandler Radio show for those, those welfare kings and queens on there, they're getting paid ridiculous amounts of money by the taxpayers. If they exposed him, which they wouldn't, it might be different, but they don't ever want to give the credit to the people who actually exposed him and brought him down. But I mean, I don't read him, I don't look at the Globe, but I'd be curious if he writes a retrospective today on the anniversary of the day he was at the finish line.
It's a good point.
And could smell it and could taste it. Dear God, could I taste it? Go back sometime if you want to see what we're talking about.
That was 3 years ago, right? Not 3 years ago?
Was that how long ago?
Yeah, I believe it was 2018.
Was it the 5th year anniversary? You got to read it to believe it. I mean, I know I've read Plagiarists before. I've read, Barnacle for years. But this one is so incredible. When you read it after you realize that he was miles away, taking a nap at his home in Hingham and writing as if he were at the finish line, it is, I'll give him credit, it is creative. It is over the top. And if you realize that he wasn't actually there, you will laugh at the thought.
And remember the firefighter, Gerry? His firefighter
who he'd never met,
who denied being there. It's like the guy. He didn't think he'd get caught.
It's so incredible, and it's again, the worst part is he sees the victims, and I'm not just talking about the people who lost their limbs. There were 264 people injured that day, and there were people emotionally scarred who were at the finish line, family members, friends of victims who lost life. And he's jealous. He says, I want to get some of that. I want to be like them. I want to be able to say, kind of like, I don't know, like Richard Blumenthal lying about being in Vietnam,
Da
Nang Dick stealing valor. It's despicable. You don't get any lower than that. And I guess you do get lower because, as you point out, he's stealing valor from a 10-year-old child, who's, I guess, 18 now, stealing valor from children who lost limbs.
I'm not gonna lie, I could listen to Cullen all day.
Right,
I could listen to it. It's so funny because we all know what a joke it is. And it's just, what else can you do besides laugh at it? He's such a character.
And just keep in mind the Globe is a joke too, because they employ people like this and they pretend that, it didn't really happen.
And they have the balls to be like, Trump is a problem when he calls him fake news. You literally employ Kevin Cullen.
Right. And I mean, I got to say, I know you and I feel the same way, that watching media frauds get exposed could be the greatest entertainment. Hell, it's better than City on a Hill. Trust me. Project Veritas catching CNN is better than anything you'll see on Showtime. Trust me. I mean, maybe they're building up to the good parts of City on the Hill, but so far, at least this season, totally disappointing, just tedious and meandering. But anyway, Project Veritas, if you're not aware what it is James O'Keefe, this young, intrepid reporter, undercover reporter, and a man after Turtleboy's own heart, exposing the frauds out there. And he's had some great stuff over the years. I'm not sure who pays him. He's got a big staff. He's got like 20, 25 people. I'm sure he takes donations. Maybe he's even allowed to take donations on Venmo and PayPal.
Unlike some people. Unlike some people. I bet you he's got like a, I assume they're a nonprofit.
Like a sugar daddy, 1 or 2 guys?
No, like a conservative, like a nonprofits. They get like conservative think tanks to give them money, It's
a nonprofit that's raised just shy of $400,000 of $1 million goal. is Project Veritas.
That's all they've raised.
You got to make more than that.
Just shy of
how do they pay their
$400,000. When you
staff?
click the donate tab, that's what you see. So I don't know if it's just this year. I don't know.
But they came out with their best one yet this week. The last couple of days, they let it out, in increments. But it was setting up, exposing CNN, and I don't think it gets any worse if you're CNN than having something like this. Because here's the best part, and I'm telling you, I laughed out loud. They set up the CNN producer by getting him to go on a Tinder date, more than one Tinder date. So one of the women who works for James O'Keefe gets on Tinder, finds this CNN, I'm gonna get his name, the CNN staffer who knows his stuff. I mean, he knows people. His name is Charlie Chester, technical director at CNN. And he admits, he says, quote, COVID gangbusters with the ratings. He admit they stressed the COVID deaths, the COVID misery, because it was great for ratings. They put the ticker with the deaths because the more that went up, the better the numbers were. And he's telling this girl, this woman, as they got drinks in front of them at a bar, telling her, bragging about they got good ratings when they really played up. You've ever heard about cable news? I mean, if this were some other like left-wing, Media Matters setting up Tucker Carlson's producer, I mean, hell, they want him fired every day for something he said.
I love it.
Imagine if they caught Fox News saying that they were playing up the deaths of American,
Well, remember the Tucker producer story we did a couple months ago where they caught him like having an alias on Twitch?
Burner account.
It was
He had a burner
racist.
account, and it was and they fired him that day. Was one guy. This is saying the network, and the woman actually gets his name again, Chester. It gets Chester to say it goes straight to the top, but she says like to Zucker. Jeff Zucker, and he says, "Yeah."
Is Brian Stelter going to be covering this on reliable sources?
That's a great question. I mean, if it were anyone else, of course, but they still haven't covered, the Cuomo story. Essentially,
Can't believe that
they
guy's
won't
real.
let Chris Cuomo talk about it. But can we play a little just to get a little sense of what it sounds and looks like when she sets this guy up? He went on 5 dates with her. 5 dates. I mean, I almost feel bad.
Did he get laid? Did she have to
I
sleep
know,
with
that's
him?
the thing. If you're gonna give this information, you better get laid. You better use
Is she like she's about as loyal as Fang Fang.
Gangbusters with ratings, right? Which is why we constantly have a death toll on the side, which I have a major problem with, that we're tallying how many people die every day. Because I've even looked at it and be like, let's make it higher. Like, why isn't it high enough, today? Like, it would make our point better if it was higher. And I'm like, what am I rallying for? That's a problem. Yeah. We're doing that,
He is, I mean, I almost feel bad for him.
Did he quit?
No, I don't think so.
He still works there?
I mean, he may get fired. He may get suspended. It's one of those deals where you don't want to give the satisfaction. Same like the Cullen deal. They don't want to give the satisfaction to the people who exposed him.
Guys will say anything if they think they're going to get laid. They really will.
He is so. I mean,
What is
first of all, he's got a buzz on. Secondly, he's thinking, I'm gonna exaggerate and amplify things just because I'm impressing her. Because you could tell she's like playing along. This woman, whoever set him up, is a great actress. Because she went through. I mean, maybe she did end up in the rack with him, which is kind of.
She's like, that's a Fang move. You got to do what you got to do.
Fang. But it's so funny because it sets up CNN, exposes them, and as you point out, like forget Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo, Anderson Cooper are sitting there going, "Oh my God, the whole world knows our game now," but they can't talk about it. They can't fight back. I mean,
They can't legitimize Project Veritas. That's their big thing.
Right.
They can't legitimize them. And that's what I get at Turtleboy a lot. It's like people won't cite Turtleboy because they don't want to legitimize it, even though the reporting is undeniable. That guy works at CNN, so why not? I mean, that sounds interesting. Although I feel like in his defense, Gerry, what he would say is like, "Oh, I was just making shit up to get laid."
He took
right? Couldn't he say that?
You could say that. That'd be his best out here, wouldn't it be?
It would be believable.
Says,
People would be like, "I can relate to that."
He actually says in another video that O'Keefe released a couple of days ago that What they did, what CNN did, was get Trump out. He says, I'm going 100% say it. I 100% believe that if it wasn't for CNN, we would not have voted Trump out. That probably is more, well, I don't know about more damning, but I mean, it's obvious that they did their best. It was a crusade.
That
They
suggests that
succeeded.
CNN has influence, Gerry.
I know.
You can't
That's a
have it
good
both ways.
That's a good question. I mean, do you think CNN, I mean, clearly it was the whole network existed to bring Trump down, to make up whatever it took. And, you know, they were celebrating the results on the election, but this is a guy actually saying it on tape. And I got the story in front of me, and it says CNN spokesman did not respond to the New York Post request for comment on the Project Veritas report. No word on if he's been fired, but so what? It's all, I mean, they nailed him. What if you're O'Keefe and your Project Veritas? See, this is something you should consider when you expand the Turtleboy empire, is getting people to do undercover video. Would you know how to do that? Like put it in a like a woman put it in her pocketbook, the camera?
Well, yeah, it's a problem in Massachusetts, though, because it's a two-party consent state.
What if you did it illegally? Would they come arrest you if you posted some video?
Yeah, like I have a turtle rider who's currently being charged by the Worcester County District Attorney's Office because she taped somebody on the phone, sent it to me. I used the tape, and now she's being charged with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
very serious crimes.
You would have to do it in another state. So this is, I don't even know what state, if this is in New York or where it is, but clearly it's legal. I haven't heard anyone say it's illegal, but it's funny because this is journalism. You know, this is journalism. You can't, if this was done by someone at 60 Minutes and they were sitting down with a defense contractor, it'd be the biggest story in the world, and they would be proud of it, and they would give each other awards and pat each other on the back. But again, it makes CNN look bad. CNN is, you know, the official network of the deep state of the swamp. They aren't going to give James O'Keefe the satisfaction of bringing down CNN. And you got to see it, even if you're a liberal and you love CNN and you love whatever Anderson Cooper, and you got to see it because it's so funny. He's trying, as you point out, might be his best excuse. I was just trying to impress her, you know. 5 dates. I'm not a Tinder guy, obviously. I'm way past that. But is there some rule that a number of Tinder dates, you actually have to like close the deal?
I mean, it's kind of like a rule of the street, but you would think on his own accord he would just be like, you know what, this obviously isn't working out, so I'm gonna see you later.
And we don't get to see her, but I'm gonna guess she's pretty hot because he is really working it. He is trying. He is bragging and trying. He thinks he's impressing her, and she's putting on a good show. So I got to give her credit. Maybe she looks like David Hasselhoff's daughter. Have you seen the story about David Hasselhoff's daughter?
No, I have not.
You guys have daughters. I don't think she says David is very proud of her. David's Hasselhoff's daughter is 28. She's a plus size model and a
great.
Plus size model, and she's going to be the first plus size model on the cover of Playboy. Now, Playboy's kind of behind the times on this. Sports Illustrated has already had a transgender swimsuit model, which was something. I got to say, we tried to do it last year, tried to figure who it was because they had all their models, and one of them was transgender. You couldn't even tell. You couldn't figure it out, even with a bathing suit on. You don't have a lot of trouble figuring out that Ashley Hasselhoff is a plus size model, and she's very proud. She says David is very proud of her too for appearing on the cover of Playboy.
Haley Hasselhoff. And
that's a very good picture of her. I mean,
that looks like Meghan McCain got stung by a swarm of bees. Jeez Louise.
I mean, she's not doing anything, whatever, illegal. She's not like who's a 𝗵𝗵 Kozar's daughter. You ever read the story of 𝗵𝗵 Kozar? His daughter is a stripper, and I mean hardcore. And I don't think they're on the same page. 𝗵𝗵's a mess. I don't know if you heard.
I heard 𝗵𝗵's a bit of a drunkard.
Yes, I think he's been on radio or on TV with a load on, as they say, and I think she has made it a little more difficult to get through the day without a couple of pops. But his daughter is hardcore. Unlike, I mean, I guess what is it, 𝗕𝗵𝘃𝗄𝗃?
Anyway, yes.
She said it's a dream come true, and her parents are very proud of her. So God bless her. But
I actually have it. If you're following us on YouTube, you can see it. YouTube right there.
Oh,
There's a couple right
God.
there.
that's her on a mirror. I thought it was her with another plus side model, but she's showing some.
Do they not know why people read Playboy? At least they
showing some
did.
girth.
Like, seriously.
I don't know how Playboy's still in business to be with
I
all
know.
the options now with OnlyFans and all the other options. I don't
I know
know.
kids have it so easy now. All they need is their phone and their, and shut the door, and they're all set. They don't need to get
Yeah,
a
who the hell
Playboy.
buys a Playboy? Who would ever
Good
do
question.
that?
I don't think anybody. Maybe you look online, and I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe this is just a way to get some people to check it out. Get some of those chubby chasers to maybe they're catering to certain fetishes.
They're
now.
out there. Trust me.
It took me,
No, a
when I was a
couple.
kid, it took me 36 hours to download my first porno, and now kids can just go on and get it in 30
It's not fair.
That's really not.
Not
Yeah, we have to have a
fair.
VHS and
Oh, God.
And you've heard Matt Walsh from Daily Wire.
yeah, he's a little much.
He wants to ban porn,
Yes,
and you hear you
disagree.
say, that's ridiculous. But he makes a great case because
I don't think he does.
my son is older now, but you guys have young kids, and now how easy it is to watch anything. I mean, the hardest core porn. Just take their phone or their laptop, boom, they could do it. When they're 12 or 13, I will just say I agree with Matt Walsh on this. Somehow, some way, it should be more difficult. They should have to work for it. It's too easy for kids to be exposed to the worst, the most hardcore.
I don't disagree with that.
It is insane that Jason Whitlock can retweet an article from the New York Post and get kicked off Twitter. But if I search Brandy Love, I see some pretty insane fucking things on Twitter.
Jason Whitlock got kicked off Twitter?
For
you know what he did? He retweeted essentially the story about the Black Lives Matter founder,
Patrisse Cullors.
Patrisse Cullors, who bought and continues to buy real estate everywhere, including a couple of homes in the whitest neighborhood in LA, in Topanga Canyon, which has a black population of 1.4%. So the Black Lives Matter founder and avowed Marxist is snapping up real estate with the hundreds of millions of dollars that corporate America and celebrities, Hollywood, have donated to Black Lives Matter. She's no fool. She's buying lots of real estate. And good luck
for her.
getting an accounting of this. I mean, she's one of the beautiful people. No one's gonna.
This is communism, Gerry. Like, people are like, she's a fake socialist thing. No, she's a real one. This is what real communism looks like. It's like the proletariat go out there and they do all the work, and you all get paid shit. And the leaders, we live like kings. I mean, that's how communism literally works.
That's true. And I mean, it amazes me that you have these people saying Black Lives Matter and throwing stuff at cops, and she's busy out there spending the money that's been donated on real estate for herself and her family. And I heard, and we've seen some of it, just like we've seen like the $3.4 million worth of homes. There's like 4 homes. I heard somebody say that she's looking for a place in the Bahamas in the same neighborhood as Tiger Woods and Justin Timberlake.
Normal.
This avowed Marxist who thinks they want to defund the police, of course, and destroy the nuclear family.
Well, you can just buy your own police. You can if you're rich, you can just have your own private police force. So.
And she is fabulously wealthy. And here's the thing: we knew it was a scam. You know, she's a con artist from the beginning, and she gets caught. And big tech, this rebel, this BLM founder, this Marxist, is protected by Twitter and Facebook, and they protect her from the truth. It's not even Whitlock barely added any commentary. He just said
she's with her people now, right? Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, people moved into an all-white neighborhood. This person who thinks
that was good.
We are controlled by white supremacists, and she wants to live in the whitest neighborhood she can find. But that's all he did. And he gets suspended. And then, of course, they say 3 days later, they let him back on Twitter, and they say, it was a mistake. It's always a mistake.
Mistakes never happen to the left, by the way.
It's always a conservative that they make a mistake with. But he had a great response when he came back to Twitter. What does he call them? Satanic MFers. And he said, never back. And he did. I mean, it's something like you would tweet. He came back and said, don't ever give in to these satanic MFers. Which means he's not long for the platform. He will be, he'll be banned again soon. By the way, is he working for the Blaze, Cullen? Do you know, Whitlock?
I haven't seen if he's landed an actual full-time gig anywhere. I haven't seen it.
I heard that was his angle when he was when he left Outkick, and 𝗏𝗏𝗃 had a messy divorce, as Whitlock often does. And he told his story to Glenn Beck the other day, and I believe he's trying to get a gig with the Blaze, and that'll probably last 6 months, and he'll go somewhere else. But he's been kind of under the radar.
He's an idiot. You get kicked off Twitter for something as stupid like that. Turtleboy knows all about that. That's such a great opportunity to build.
I'm starting to realize how good it is to be censored. It really it helps.
I appreciate. I like your attitude, but you're full of it. You don't like to be censored.
I kind of like. I mean, Gerry, I'm a freedom fighter now. I've been thrust into this role that I didn't ask. I just wanted to write about ratchets, and next thing you know, I'm leading a revolution on the internet to fight big tech. Here we are.
I just want to write it. Put that on a T-shirt and sell it. By the way, I just want to write about ratchets.
Yeah, and next thing you know, here we are. I'm the guy out in front. Me and Alex Jones and Milo carrying the flag.
It's too bad you don't get more. I mean, I know people just steal from you. Even some of your allies don't give you credit. It's too bad because you deserve it, because you have carved out a hell of a niche.
Well, I think since last we spoke, I've been banned by another tech company, which at this point, I just notch it up. It's just another notch in the belt. It's almost an honor to be banned by these tech companies, and that GoFundMe. So add GoFundMe to the list of PayPal, Venmo, Facebook, Twitter, and Google AdSense.
Gerry just used the word steal. They basically stole from you. You had $15,000 raised, and they just shut it down and refunded people.
And that's true. They took the money from you and gave it back.
And not only did they kind of steal from me like that, but on top of that, they also told the people who donated. It's a slap in the face of them, because they're like, that money you wanted to pay for that service, you didn't really want that. You did, trust me, that was bad. You're a bad person if you wanted to give them, because he's a bad person. Therefore, you should not give them. Here's your money back. As if it's just so insulting to people. Like, well, I want to pay him, so I'm going to pay him.
And ironically, you expose some of these GoFundMe scams. I mean, better than anyone. And those people are allowed, like that Lowell, the woman in Lowell we talked about last week, who started a GoFundMe for the funeral for the woman who was, you believe, killed by her own son. And she didn't give the family a nickel. She just they raised a couple grand and just, went out and bought herself something. And that woman can use GoFundMe. You can't. I often wonder, you sit there and you see these stories. I mean, like the one last week where with Ron DeSantis had a roundtable discussion about COVID lockdowns with a bunch of world-renowned epidemiologist and virologist, and Scott Atlas from I realized that he's an enemy to the left because he doesn't believe in lockdowns, but he's a faculty member at Stanford, and a guy from Oxford, a guy from Harvard, and they had a discussion. Now, you might not agree with everything they say, but so what? Who cares? They took it down. You cannot see the roundtable discussion with the governor of Florida, the best governor in America, perhaps our next president, and a bunch of world-renowned physicians. You can't see it because somebody at YouTube, probably some 28-year-old radical nose ring freak from Silicon Valley, sit there and said, "I don't like these people." Click. And it goes along with what I was just saying, because not only is it silencing Ron DeSantis and these other people that were on the video, but it's also telling the millions of people that wanted to watch that video, oh, no, we're smarter than you. You don't get it. You're just a stupid rube. You think you want to watch that video, but that's just because you're ignorant and you don't understand science. And so we're going to protect you from that. It's so patriarchal.
They're protecting them, Turtleboy. Don't look at it that way.
People from somebody who's an actual governor who's actually implemented these policies, and they've worked. Now, you could have Andrew Cuomo do the same thing, have a round table with, panic porn people, whoever, have Walensky on there and Fauci saying we should stay locked down forever, and no one should ever go outside, and even if you get the vaccine, you should wear a mask, and they would be okay with it. I mean, people who've lied and been wrong over and over and over again are okay. But a guy like DeSantis, who's been right all along, is banned. And it just seems bizarre. It seems so brazen, and I guess that's what you get. This is what 80 million people voted for. They voted for more power to big tech, and they're getting it. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised, but it just seems to me that there's very little deliberation. Whoever is doing it at YouTube or GoFundMe or Twitter when they banned Whitlock is just sitting there going, I don't like that. Click. I don't like him.
It is. But you know what? It's like I've been whining about this for years, and clearly nothing's going to get done. Every time they have a hearing in front of Washington, it's just a spectacle, and the congressman grandstand. Conservatives complain that they're being censored. Liberals complain. Nothing's going to happen. So ultimately, if you're somebody like me, you have to just get your own platform. And that's actually what I'm starting next week, Gerry. So I'm doing this thing. I've been working on a project for months now with my web developer called Turtle Club. And we're going to live stream right from my website. So eventually we won't use YouTube. You'll just be able to go right to the website, comment on it, watch the live stream, donate that way. We're going to have all the features that YouTube has. And that's ultimately what people have to do. You have to stop being reliant on tech companies because you have no control over them. You think that you own this channel, but it belongs to them at the end of the day. And nobody's going to help you. Nobody's going to save you. The government, Republicans are all owned by Google anyway, so they're not going to do shit. So you just got to make your own fucking platform.
It seems to me that as we sit here, you say, as long as you don't say, they should, kill all the, promote genocide, then you say, that's okay. There's got to be room for diverse opinions, but there isn't. I mean, you literally, there's only one right think.
That's right.
Everything else is wrong think. And somebody, maybe it's a panel, maybe it's a group, maybe it's one person, decides, I don't like what they say. It's not illegal. It's not inflammatory. You're not calling for violence, you're not like Antifa, you're not terrorists, you just disagree politically. Or in the case of Jason Whitlock, a prominent black pundit exposes the scam that is Black Lives Matter. Hell, I talked about this a while ago, but talked about Black Lives Matter and lost an advertiser because I literally described the organization according to their own description, the defund the police and disrupt the nuclear family, and he went through all the tenets of Black Lives Matter, and that upsets people. You're supposed to assist them in the facade, in the lie that they only care about Black lives and systemic racism. And now we have the founder buying mansions all over the place, and big tech says, no, we don't want anyone to know about that. I mean, that to me is duplicitous. That's not fair.
Nothing. They can never top the Hunter Biden story, Gerry. After the Hunter Biden story, nothing can ever, you'll never be able to be surprised by anything they do ever again.
That's a good point. The Hunter Biden story, you can't defend it if you're, even if you're some crazy, Joy Reid type liberal or whatever, you can't defend them censoring real news, lying about it. I mean, they lied about it, said it was leaked.
Russian disinformation.
Yeah, Russian, and they held it from the public until the election. They got their guy elected, and then Jack Dorsey said, you know what? We shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. It's always a mistake, but there's an end game, and it is get their guys elected. In this case, I mean, this is going to be wild today. If you're just waking up, they're going to introduce a bill to expand the Supreme Court, which is wild. I mean, I certainly hope it doesn't happen, but here you have some of the most radical legislators, in this case in the Senate, and Ed Markey.
Ed Markey, yeah.
And in the House, Hank Johnson. So
the Guam guy. Okay, good.
This is one of two or three of the dumbest members of the Senate.
Brilliant minds right there, I was going to say.
Who's being led around by ringing his nose by AOC, and Hank Johnson, the man who famously thought Guam would tip over because we had so many troops on Guam, and he asked a member of the military, are you afraid that it will tip over?
Wait till he finds out about, Markey probably thinks the same about Nantucket, Gerry, so, they're two of a kind. They really are two of the dumbest people in this. All we're missing right now is 𝗵𝟏 Hirono, and we'd have the Three Stooges.
That's true. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna guess, Turtleboy, that she's on board with this. It's wild because it's so radical, and I tweeted this last night, and I'm telling you, when you think about it, and you and I talk about this all the time, and you know, we're on the same page. They know how to fight. They know how to.
They play to win. They play to win.
They play to win, and as 𝗟𝗂𝗄𝗃, who tweets about this, talks about this all the time, pointed out, today they're going to introduce a bill to expand the Supreme Court by 4 to 13, and all 4 will be appointed by Biden. All 4 will be as radical as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, more radical than Ruth Bader Ginsburg. They want to tip the scales on the Supreme Court forever, for the rest of our lives. Yeah. It'll be essentially a third legislative body doing whatever Biden or the Democrats want. But if you list the things they control, I couldn't even fit it in a tweet, put it that way. I mean, when you think about, you know, White House, Senate, House, CIA, FBI, Hollywood, academia, big tech, big media, sports, pro sports, Wall Street, on it goes.
Everything, our entire culture.
One thing they don't control, and by the way, it's a margin of 1, 5 to 4, because Roberts is a reliably liberal vote now.
Yeah, thanks, George Bush.
They're 1 vote from controlling the Supreme Court, and they said, nah, not enough. Let's change the law. It's the most naked, cynical power grab I've ever seen in my life.
They play to win.
And led by a couple of dummies like Markey and Hank Johnson and Gerald Nadler. And they will sit there and they'll say it without any...
But Gerry, we had the chance to, like, I was saying this in October when they were, like, with the whole Barrett thing was going on. And I was saying then, I'm like, they're running on a platform of packing the court. Biden won't say he won't do it. So why doesn't Trump pack the court? Like, but that's the thing that we don't think of. We're like, no. We can't do that because we have to respect the institutions, and we have to do it the way, what would Ronald Reagan do? Screw Ronald Reagan. We're not living in the age of Ronald Reagan anymore. We got to get out of this mentality that, like, we have to be civilized and play by the rules. No, we need to play to win like they do. We should have packed the court. Go on the offensive instead of going on the defensive.
Well, to me, all you need to know is, and I've been hearing this my whole life, is someday we will defund PBS, which is this left wing, you know, it's the media wing of the woke mob. It is paid for by taxpayers, and yet, and all Republicans do is complain about it and say, oh, you know, there should be more balance or whatever. These are as radical, as left wing, reliably left wing as any media outlet ever. It's 𝗕𝗵𝗄𝗃, who stood up with Biden's one and only press conference and said, "You're such a moral and decent man." That person is on the public payroll, the taxpayer's dime. And I've heard it my whole life. When we'll defund it, and they can get their contributions, they can sell ads, they can do whatever, they'll survive. But somehow they never do it. It's like defunding Planned Parenthood. It never happens. And the reason is there's just nobody who fights hard, fights dirty.
No, there's like 3 or 4. There's like Colley and, you know what I mean, Cotton and Cruz. But the problem is that we have these Mitt Romneys, and not only the Mitt Romneys, the forgettable senators, the senators you've never heard of from Indiana and North Dakota and stuff, who aren't looking to, like, cause a big thing here. Whereas every single Democrat in the Senate besides Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema is a radical leftist who wants to completely reimagine the country. It's going to be interesting to see how the Senate votes on this. Which Democrats vote against this? Will there be any? Because I assume Sinema and Manchin will not go along with this, but will any of the other 48 Democrats be like, this is a little much?
You think it's too much for Mitt? Because there is no Mitt Romney on the other side. There's no Lisa Murkowski on the other side.
Well, there's
strictly our side. We got the Mitt Romneys.
Right.
These absolute squishes, these frauds.
And the difference is that Mitt Romney is from a red state. He has the ability to be completely conservative, whereas Joe Manchin is from the most conservative state in the country, and he's a Democrat, so he has to be in the middle. That's the difference.
He doesn't vote. He votes with the Democrats. He's reliably...
Who, Manchin?
Reliable vote. Yes. It's all talk.
He voted for Kavanaugh.
He will vote with the Democrats, even though his state voted for Trump in 2016. Trump won by 43 points.
Yeah, that's their biggest state. That used to be a Democratic state. Demographic change.
It was Robert Byrd. I mean, it used to be, you know, half the state is still named after Robert Byrd. We're tearing down, you know, Abraham Lincoln and U.S. Grant, but half the state of West Virginia is still named after the Grand Kleagle, Robert Byrd. All right, we'll see. It's going to be wild, and it's going to be impressive the way they stand up in front of the world and just say, yeah, we have to do this because, we have to control everything. And people, again, people voted for this. 80 million people voted for this. It's frightening. I will say this. I guess I have to, for the first time, I think first time ever, I have to give Joe Biden credit. He's going to do exactly what Donald Trump proposed. He's going to pull the troops out of Afghanistan by September 11th, which is stupid to say, to make this thing, this move, kind of part of the, make it symbolic, make it part of the September 11th, festivities. We're going to take all the troops home. But I just want a president to say, we're taking the troops home now. No deadlines, no predictions, now, starting. And then I want to see video of guys with their big rucksacks and their bags getting on planes, getting on helicopters, buses. I want to see them coming home.
But Gerry, what about the 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃 public schools? They're going to fall apart, Gerry.
Girls, girls will no longer be. It is amazing to me that people still say this. Like Lindsey Graham says it, but you hear Bill Kristol and Max Boot and these people say,
yeah,
oh, all the great work we've done. Can you imagine if right now we weren't in Afghanistan and their proposal was, let's go there because girls aren't allowed to go to school and we should go
are the Uyghur,
the world.
It's very selective.
American lives to make sure girls in this shithole country can go to school.
Like, do the Uyghur Muslim girls go to school? Why aren't we invading China? If that's their rationale, why aren't we invading every country in the world where girls don't get... That's what we do. We just sacrifice American lives so that girls in random shitholes get to go to school. What?
It's insane, and I guarantee if they do a poll, it's 80% of the public wants out. Nobody wants to be there. And really, if you're a public official, elected official, or a media person, a Bill Kristol, a neocon, you got to bend yourself in all kinds of pretzels to make this case. And I said this on Twitter and I believe it. I have no tolerance. I'm going to lose it when people start calling it premature or rushed or rash. You're going, wait a second. It's been 20 years. 20 years. The longest war ever with no objective anymore. There's no objective. The objective isn't to make sure girls go to school.
It literally is. That literally is the objective.
Women can go outside without their husband's permission. If that's rationale for American intervention, you're right. There's places all over the world. There's, including China, where you would say you can make the case for American invasion. Nobody wants to be there any longer. Not one person. I hate when they say we're going to keep a force of 2,500 or something. No, a force of 0 should be there. 0, unless you want to, take help with the opium harvest and make sure we get our heroin. What's the point? What? No. And I listen to vets too. You listen to guys like Robert O'Neill. They feel the same way. They're like, what is the objective?
There's never been a better time too with COVID because you have the perfect excuse. Like, sorry, we can't rebuild schools. Our schools aren't even open. So,
yeah, they want to rebuild and make sure they have better HVAC systems.
Like, that is crazy that like they want the Capitol public schools to function properly, but the American public schools, you guys can sit in front of a computer in your house and just whatever.
Well, we'll see. He's going to have to buck, his staunchest supporters like Liz Cheney and actually
I hate her.
I do exactly what Trump said. So I hope he does. I will give him credit. I will tip my cap. There's a couple things I want to get to. You haven't seen this.
I got to bounce, Gerry. Bus stop
I
time.
See that. I could see that, Turtle Man. But all right, let's do Shea Concrete, and then we're going to do the greatest battle in cable news history, at least since Morton Downey left the airwaves, and it felt like.
All right, guys, got to go do the bus stop. See you guys. What's Thursday? I'll see you tonight. Peace.